I'm Francois from Production Music Live, today with Producer Notes, and we're taking a look at the style of vintage culture Nihil Young and a track called Time. We have a fully arranged track as a remake, reverse engineering the style of that track with Ableton only stock effects and instruments plus Serum, PML samples, sounds and vocals, different harmonies and melodies. And we have this fully arranged track here, melodic techno style, lasting around 5 minutes with a quick arrangement overview where we have an intro. Bit of Atmos and everything, and then we bring in some more drum elements. And some plugs until after half a minute we are bringing in our heavy hitting bass sounds. Yeah, and then we are going into something like a verse here where we are being sustained by Atmos in the background and some vocals in the foreground until we reach our first drop part here at around 1 minute and 15 seconds. And that's kind of like the main part of the track. Overall, I would argue this is more like the Spotify version of the song. For the club mix, you would need a bit longer intros and outros. And then, you know, second part of the drop is a bit more focused on arps and piano, upper harmonics. We have a full playback at the end of the video, just skimming through the arrangement here, and then we enter the break part at around 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
I don't wanna fall asleep without your touch. I don't wanna...
Keeping the chords stable and playing some more vocals. And then we're starting to build up the chord progression again at bar 81. Oh, sorry, at bar 89 actually. Kind of like the bridge in traditional songs. And now we have the pre-drop here. And then more drums. And then this super nice, that's maybe my favorite part almost, here with these fills. Just the drums. And then another turn for the drop. Yeah, and then we are deconstructing the track towards 4 minutes. Quickly skimming through the groups. This is what the drums group sounds like. Together. Very clean and groovy, and bass group together in the beginning. And then later. And some of the layers that are coming together with the bass are grouped into the instruments group here. So just using a bunch of layers to get that really fat sound in there, and later in the instruments group it sounds like this. So that's the instruments group overview, and then we have a bunch of effects here, lifters and impacts. And the vocals group has this Atmo bedding. Also, we have the main vocals.
Wanna fall asleep without your touch. Wanna fall asleep without your touch.
Okay, so these are the groups. Who is Vintage Culture, Brazilian DJ, has become a leading figure in EDM, celebrated for his unique blend of house, tech house, melodic sounds, has done collabs with Tiesto and Moby, performed at Tomorrowland and Lollapalooza. And Nihil Young is an Italian DJ and producer from Bologna, released on Toolroom and Purified, and runs his own label. So these are the original artists here. So let's go through the elements one by one, and let's start with the kick here. This is our kick. Super punchy, and now we need a good snare to go with that. Here used as MIDI. This is our sample. All these samples and this project file and more project files are part of the new Melodic Techno Sound Kit, linked in the description, where you get sample pack, Serum presets with MIDIs and project files, Ableton templates as project files, where you can fully edit and dissect everything from this track here. And we are then playing this together with a bunch of hi-hats. And maybe I should start with hat 3 first, because that one is sitting on top of the kick, and that really makes your kick cut through if I'm taking off the snare quickly. So this hat is sitting on top of the kick. Now together with the snare. And it's already a nice setup. And then the off hi-hat in the offbeat position here. Kind of like this, almost sounds like 80s or something, or like Eric Pride's Proper Education or something like that. And together with a crash in the beginning here. So that's the basic setup. And now let's take a look at whatever comes in after the second turn. Here we have a fast hi-hat, 16th notes. So this is our, if I'm quickly putting in the notes, you can see it's a 16th pattern and no velocities applied here on the MIDI. But instead we're using the LFO here to mess around with the attack. It's also a way to make it more interesting and varied. Then we have this 4th hi-hat here, also sitting in position 3. So this is kind of an off hi-hat as well. What does it sound like if we mix it in? Brings it more to the foreground. And then for this type of setup, we also need like this late swoosh in kind of hi-hat. So let's listen into this one here in that position. So this one is sort of leading into the off hi-hats, just a little early. And sometimes below that we are also putting in a ride here, also in position 3, but only every 4th time. And then it's being varied with a tom down there. This tom sound here. These are switching positions. One go the ride, another go the tom, and vice versa. And then you get the tom fills here. So. Nice. Yeah, that's a good question. What is this room? We are sending that to send A, and we have 3 seconds of reverb decay time here on that sound. Yeah, and the positioning is right before 4.4. So again, 16th notes, 1/16 note early. So very simple, but super powerful drum setup. And now we can still look at our fills here. We have 3 toms, and tom 1 sounds like this. It's the deep one. And then this one is panned a bit to the left, more clear. And then this one, so a more deep, bit more centered all together. And together with this tom up here. And if we put the kick back in, we get... But you can also see there's another snare. We just looked at snare 3. That is our clap position type snare. And we have another one here, which sounds like this. Velocities down towards the end. And combined with the tom sounds, you get this nice fill in. This one is... That's fun. Here's another snare layered with the last 2 hits of that snare. Just to fatten it up. And again, together with the toms. And a bit of tail, bit of reverb tail on the sound. So all together in the drums again. Okay, very nice setup in my opinion. By the way, if you're wondering what's on the group, bit of compression and some saturation. Okay, down to the bass lines. Here we have sidechain, and then we have a bunch of effects here that we can roll in and roll out. But let's take a look at bassline 1 first. That's what it sounds like in solo. And if we take a look at the sounds, we have 2 layers here. One is a sob layer. I'm going to solo this one. Make sure you're on headphones, not on a phone speaker. And this is our setup in Serum. We are -3 octaves down. We are playing saw rounded to square, and ICANN has kick as wavetables. And also in the sub oscillator, 2 octaves down, we are playing a saw wave. All of that goes through a filter, and envelopes are super short here. So we have a decay time of 130 milliseconds. Sustain all the way down, release at 15 milliseconds, and just an EQ on the effects. Nothing crazy going on in the matrix. We just need a clean sub sound and we're shaping it slightly here and also making it a bit louder. This is just, it's easier to adjust when you have a utility right behind Serum here, but you could argue you can also make it in the chain. There's so many options always in Ableton. And in the mid, we have an instrument rack within an instrument rack. That's sound 1, and this is sound 2. And you could argue, hey, why do we need so many layers? Yeah, well, at the end of the day, you want fat sound, and we are sort of reverse engineering something that was done with God knows what kinds of, synths. And we just try to use Ableton and Serum to get close to the original sounds and also make them sound fat. So take that with a grain of salt here. Maybe if you were to produce this from scratch, you would do it differently. So Icon has kick 2 times used here, 1 time with 8 voices and 1 time with 1 voice. This is the effects section. Our matrix envelope 2 is controlling the filter cutoff of this MG low pass 18 decibels per octave filter. And then you can see we are rolling it down here. We are using more the sub frequencies in that area. And then we are trying to emphasize on this area. Basically, we are trying to cover the frequency range in a similar way the original sound is doing it. Now, this is all applied to this L1 layer sound. And now this EQ here is controlling the overall sum of this instrument rack, and then the first instrument rack is being shaped by this last EQ here. Now layer 2 in mid layer 2 sounds like this. So we have saw wave, 3 voices, and we have the Juno wave. Just a nice Juno type sound. Envelope 2 again controls filter cutoff, this time with an MG low pass 24 filter. Drive is set up, and in the effects we're adding a bit of distortion. This one is a very versatile and useful sound. And all of them together again. Because if you take off layer 2, you just have the punchy parts, and this one is needed for the overall texture on top. Crisp. Okay, in bass mid 2, we have another 4 layers. But basically we needed this character here of the sound, and we're like, okay, so how do we put this together? Maybe there are different ways of doing this, but in this case we just put a bunch of Serum instances together and then try to really cover the fatness of the sound with them. And layer 1. I'm just quickly going to skim through this, so you have seen it, but we are not really taking too much time here. But you can get an idea how these sounds come to life with in terms of wavetables. All the way to the sides. Yeah, and that one very centered. So you see sometimes a single sound doesn't really make a lot of sense when played single, but when combined with other ones, it starts doing magic. And all of them are pretty dry also. Together with bassline 1. And now we have something that sounds fat. And put that together with the drums. So in songwriting, you would just use one sound and then write your song and see where does it fit nicely. And then at the end, when you really want to tweak it to make it sound fat for the club, for the festival or something, then you will layer all these elements in to cover the frequencies you want. And then also you might notice, hey, I actually need a bit more sustained bass line below all of this. And sometimes we're leaving room here, especially when some toms are playing or some short notes are playing in the more stabby bass sounds, to, you know, to not really kill the groove that is being achieved by those little fills. The sustained bass line is using the basic mini shape, saw rounded to square. This one 2 octaves down, this one 3 octaves down, just a sustained bass sound that then gets filtered. And if you're wondering, hey, I didn't see a sidechain, in this case, the sidechain is being operated by LFO1. Okay, and if we scroll down, we have a bunch of other layers in our instruments group here that sort of support the top end and tail of this setup. If we listen into this part here, for example, now the bottom is covered. And now we're dealing with the upper harmonics here. We have lead detuned one. So we were playing here. And they are sort of putting together a chord, these different layers. If I'm playing the one below that, or maybe this one. We're putting together this type of chord, not playing everything with every layer. How is this one put together? 12 voices of essentially a saw wave and one voice. It's a pretty simple sound. You leave release on it, so it has a bit more tail to it. After the MIDI note is done playing. And if we look at the effects section, we have a bit of reverb here. Decay time of 5.9 seconds. And we're cleaning up the low end on this sound because that's covered by our bass. And now below that we have the lead detuned. And that one has a bit of artifacts to the end of the sound, kind of nice. 5 voices of basic mini, 5 voices of basic MCB or saw wave essentially. Filter only 12 decibels per octave, so this one is more open. More room for crispiness, and then later at some point we start to sort of put an LFO on the filter cutoff here with a bit of delay towards the end of the sound. It's always nice to have a little bit of movement on the sounds, feels more natural, more humanized. And this one is not doing anything here at the moment, so we are going down to the saw low lead. That one is also a very nice sound. Already by itself, 12 voices of ICANN has kick, 1 voice. Again, here we need longer release times and sustains on these sounds. Because essentially the notes are only playing here, but we still hear it at that part. Okay, and effects section quickly, an EQ and envelope 2 filter cutoff controlling. So this is controlling the cutoff filter. together. Here we have that quick jump in lead detuned 1, where we're going an octave up. So that's here on A. And now what we didn't look at so far was this lead saw high. That's a special sound on top as well. This one is coming together with the high note. So you can probably also build this up in a different way, but it seems to be working nicely this way as well. And you just have different purposes for different sounds here to really sort of nail what's going on. And this one is a saw wave again. And envelope 2 controlling the filter here again. Release time also a bit longer on that sound. And a longer decay time on the reverb of that sound as well. These just emphasize a bit on different areas of these notes, and that's what makes it feel more alive at the end of the day. If you're playing this together again now with the drums and these bass sounds and these leads, I don't know, I think it sounds very musical and definitely not static. So a lot of fun to listen to, seems to be worth the work. And what do we have playing alongside with it? We have this pluck sound here. It's one sustained note, so we are doing the plucky part somewhere else. LFO1 covers that. It controls the levels here of these two oscillators at 16s at a rate of 1/16. And we're doing the same thing with LFO2 on the filter. Bit of dimension expansion, or let's say reverb on top of it, rolling off some low end. And sidechaining. Next one is the pad. Here in C sharp minor in this track. We're playing C sharp minor, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, and A major. But we're just keeping this one stable and very airy. So this one has noise on top of the sound, lots of voices here, a square wave and a saw wave. And then mixing in the noise quite loudly to have this airy feel on the pad. And it does that all the way through. And then we have this other pluck sound here on pluck 3. And where is it sitting? So we're playing... So always the third position and then waiting a beat and then putting it again. Keeping the tension up, and again, Serum used, basic mini, pluck sound, envelope 2, controlling the filter, very simple setup. Okay, what else is playing? Skipping the ones that are not playing in this part so we can really see what's being covered here. We have this faster pluck, bit deeper. You can almost always put something like that in. Playing the root note an octave lower, and again, very simple Serum plug setup, 5 voices of saw wave and then filtered. Reverb on top. And behind that, another Atmo pad. That one's here for the tension. Because you have the C sharp minor. And less tension would be playing the 5th. Just a minor chord, but we are playing the 4th. So that keeps it a bit of unstable, and you're sort of waiting for something to happen. And it's creating this tension with pad 1, which is playing the 5th with that airy top note here. G is the 5th, G sharp. So thereby you're keeping it tense and interesting in the background. Okay, so these are the main melodic elements in the drop, and later what happens, we have this digital lead here combined with the pad. Octave higher, basically. Quickly looking at the Serum sound. This is the setup. Copy the settings if you're interested. Matrix. Well, it's a bit more of a complicated sound, but I'm not sure if this is really, like, you have to listen to it in the sum. We're using this as sort of a riser element almost, together with this transition pad here as well. Bring that in to sort of rise into the next area without having to use these typical sweeps. So. So transitions with more musical elements, less sweeps and stuff. So what did we have on top? We still have this piano playing. After 8 bars, we put in this piano melody here. It's kind of daunting. And repetitive. And together with these pads and plugs. And it's a simple piano setup here, some recorded piano notes, so you can easily use that at home without having to load up piano plugins. And then we have this lead that comes at some parts in the track, also in the build-up here. So if I'm putting in the scale, we can quickly see that. And if we fold it, that's what we are playing, and we are playing basic mini and basic shapes, a sine wave, and these two are combined, and then we also have quite some, like 6.4 seconds of decay on that reverb sound here. Cleaning up the lows. You can see what's not being used. So we have these our other frequencies covered, especially on the sides. We don't really need that because we are still playing this alongside. And then we still have this analog lead in the build-up part right before the drop, where we go. So a lot of noise on this sound. And again, we have a bunch of layers here, but I'm not going to go through those now to save a bit of time here. Basically, you need a counterpoint to what happened before. Again, you can check it all out by taking a look at the link in the description to the sound pack, where you have this full Ableton project file, Ableton Live 11 or higher, and Serum is being used, and you can dissect it and learn from it and copy some elements into your own tracks and then, you know, really study it in depth. The only thing left to take a look at is the vocal section here, where we have these Atmo vocals playing. Simple setup, a bedding for the track. Dark and deep. Together with the Atmo pad. And this pad. Just, you know, tweaked down, and this one was, what was it, C minor, so we put it a semitone up, so it's C sharp minor and fits into the scale. And then the same thing with Atmo vocal, which was B minor, so we had to pitch it up 2 notes, 2 semitones. Yeah, and these sounds from the vocalized series are designed to fit into these types of track setups. And on the main vocal, we have a top voice and a lower voice where we have the main vocal.
I don't wanna fall asleep without your touch.
And now you can say, hey, I don't even see a reverb tail or a delay or something. I just see this multi-band compression, and you took off some harsh resonant frequencies here. So we do have audio effects on the group, where we have reverb, and we also have the delays sitting here, 4x4 delays, and 6 seconds of decay time, 6.8 seconds of decay time of that reverb.
I don't wanna fall asleep without your touch. I don't wanna fall asleep without your touch.
So we're getting a bit of early reflection with this one here, and then the delays, and then the long tail of the reverb, that one. And we are layering this sound with an octave lower.
I don't wanna fall asleep with.
And when you do that, we are going to the Complex Pro algorithm here and then messing around with the formants where it sounds nice.
I don't wanna fall asleep without your touch.
And somewhere around 60 it sounds kind of nice.
I don't.
But always have to check back with the original on top. What does it sound like in the sum?
I don't wanna fall asleep without your touch.
And then it's getting sidechained to the kick altogether.
I don't wanna fall asleep without your touch. I don't wanna make you.
Okay, so that's the setup here. Let's quickly sum up what we've learned. So in the drums parts, we have this super nice 80s style drum setup. Very snare focused, so it's really landing on the snare. Everything is set up that way. You're putting the hat onto the kick as well. So to emphasize it, if I take that off, it sounds different. Really nice setup with that snappy hat on top of the kick, and then a simple, fluffy, open hi-hat on the offbeat position. And then you combine that with these nice tom fill-in setups. And you always need a bunch of tom sounds to do that. They have to sound a little different, each one from another, to make it sound interesting. Don't use the same sound to put together such a fill. And then also blend in some snare sound here and there. And you can even like generate these. There's these videos where you can generate those kinds of things with a drum rack and an arpeggiator. And here you have another one combined with the snare as well. And then the trick is also for this type of a setup to have the late ride here. Yeah, and that's the secret behind these drums. Also make sure your kick is not too long, because you still need room for the bass line, which is here very stabby. Heavily layered, stabby bass sounds here, but not too metallic, not anyma style, a bit more soft. So we are not going too much into the high frequencies, not too much noise mixed into it, but we really try to cover a lot of the frequency range and punch in the middle. That's why we are using so many layers to do that. But it's still a more embracing and more soft one than an anyma one, for example. And to really make it work, we are layering that with the top end information of this analog sound of these shots up here. And opposed to the bass sounds we had in the low end, which have short release times. This is something that's really important here. The releases are very short on those lower notes. We don't want to blur our low frequencies. Now on top, where we are much higher here in the mid frequencies, we are allowed to leave them running. Here with longer tails, 300 milliseconds of release times, and also here even longer on that sound. That it's a lot longer. It's like 1.7 seconds on the amplifier envelope. And sometimes also, that's one of the takeaways, we sort of layer different lead sounds also on different notes to sort of create a chord, but we're not playing the chord with all of them to not make it, you know, not to have too many layovers here. Yeah, and then to make it interesting, we have the piano RP kind of sound playing together with it here, very stable. But also kind of mystical. To keep the tension. And this tension is also being kept up by those air pads. Playing the fifth and the root here, and to really make it tense, we are playing the fourth in this Atmo pad here. And now you have something that kind of wants to be resolved, but doesn't really resolve. And it's just creating this nice tension, and it's being supported by the plug on the root note here. And if I'm putting that together again with the piano. You have a nice Atmo bedding stable in the background of our fluffy drummy beat, and this is even more supported by the Atmo vocals. So now you really have Atmo and fatness already going, but you still have a lot of room for the main elements. Alright, so that's it for this little walkthrough. Check out the links in the description for this project file and other project files of the brand new Melodic Techno Sound Pack with sample pack and presets inside as well, so you can mess around with this type of sound and some other ones. If you want to check out the vocals or vocal packs that we've created to sort of support you in making these types of setups in your tracks, check out the links in the description as well. Also, if you want to learn melodic techno production from start to finish, we have a full start to finish course academy bundle, linking that in the description as well. It's also a great way to support the work on this channel. If you are interested in all of that, also feel free to check out the Everything Bundle, which is the biggest deal we have. You're getting insane amounts of value by getting that with sound packs and courses, super professional production material. And if you want to learn a bit more about music theory, harmony and chord progressions, I'm linking a course we made for melodic techno and melodic house as well. Thanks for your time and attention and watching today. We'll now have a full playback, and I'll see you again soon.